I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and this is the finals of the 2025 Belgium Carcassonne Online Championships between Raf Mesotten with a screen name CraftyRaf and Fabian Mouton with a screen name which is almost basically the same as his name. You can see it on the screens, but we are starting the matches in only 4 minutes. In addition to the finals, what we will be witnessing right now are the final moments of the match for the third place between Tom D. Schmidt with a screen name Nice Dicer and Vannes van Sina with a screen name Karkaroth 9. This is already the decider as they started this match a little bit earlier. There are only 6 tiles remaining to play, as you can see they're very close on the scoreboard. 32 points for Karkaroth and 34 for Nice Dicer. In the semifinal, actually, it doesn't matter what happened in the semifinal. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later because this position is way too interesting. This game should end in a couple of minutes. Obviously, both players still have a lot of times on the clock, but really only 5 tiles to play. There's a big field fight ensuing over here. At the bottom. And it looks like the player with the green meeples, which is Nice Dicer, has the advantage because of the 3 monasteries over here. But also a lot of stuff for red. Like red has a ruin at the top, which could even get completed if there are remaining tiles available. Red also has the city over here, which could get completed right now. It would have the trouble of bringing green into the field as well. Or red could just finish their own city over here as well. So red could just do anything. Yeah, there's... Oh wait, this is green. This is green. So again, like green could go over here, finish his 2 monasteries at the expense of... Wait, never mind. The city is shared. So this is the reason why green meeples are illegal at the World Championship. Because obviously if you zoom in, then there's a green meeple over here, which I didn't see immediately. Yeah, so this will be... Let's see. Farmers, farmers, farmers. 3 farmers here. No, 2 farmers here. 1 here. And the access to... Wait, oh, there's 1 here as well. Oh, isn't that interesting? I guess there won't be any deep analysis of it. I just want to witness the last tile so that we finally get to congratulate whoever gets the 3rd place. It is a best of 3 formats, and the first 2 games have already been played. Hi, Nicholas. Hi, Nico. Hi, Ian. Also, thank you, Nico, for pointing out in the chat that in addition to Glory, there is another prize available for 3rd place. Unlike the 4th place, they get to be automatically part of Belgium's national team for the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship, which is coming up in April. And for the 4th place, they will need to play in the qualification events later this spring. Yeah, should be really close. Really, up until this moment, not sure who won. Okay, it has to probably be Tom because of his monasteries and the roads, and Karkaroth is saying GG, which would imply that he's the one who lost. However, at the top we have a juicy city which is yet to be counted, and red also has more points on the field because green farmer ended up not making it to the field, and red's farmer also didn't make it into the field, but they have a 6-point farm of their own over here on the left, and would you look at that? The game is tied. Well, this is a way to start the evening, isn't it? But because Karkaroth was the starting player by the new tie-breaking rules which were implemented a few months ago on Board Game Arena and across the broader Carcassonne community a bit earlier than this, Tom wins. Green wins with 80 against 80, so it could not have possibly been closer than that. Congratulations to Tom, commiserations to Vannes, but now we're just going to update the score on the board and move on to our heroes of the night. Raf and Fabian. The game must have already started because the tournament is scheduled to start at strictly 2030 UTC. Fabian's now rated at a solid 632, which is above Raf, I think, who's rated in the upper 500s, but Raf's peaks rating is higher. It's in the low 600s. For Fabian, it's in the upper... For CraftyRaf, it's in the lower 700s. For Fabian, it is in the upper 600s. Raf should have more tournament experience as he has been with the Belgian national team for a few years already, whereas Fabian just started more recently. But he seems to be in good shape, not only due to his rating, but also because he spent considerable time practicing with the one and only Daniel Chard, the author of the famous Book of Carcassonne. CraftyRaf, on the other hand, is a content creator and a streamer, so he has spent his fair share analyzing games and telling about them to other people. So both players should demonstrate quite deep knowledge of the game and hopefully some interesting moves. So the game has started a minute ago. Not much has happened other than CraftyRaf scoring 4 points for this little city earlier on. Must have felt nice placing his red meeple on here. Fabian with his traditional yellow meeples now makes an interesting move, trying to indirectly prolong his city on the left, whilst also building a loop road. There's still 3 Doritos that fit into this square, but probably the player with the yellow meeples might even prefer a horse stall here, so that he could develop his city like this, with 2 further Doritos up north, and then maybe even start a 2-point road. Thank you, Nico, for sharing stats in the chat. Hi, Glavir. Hi, Divaka. Hi, Helge. Yes, exactly, Nicholas. Vannes got Raft. So, a fun fact for y'all is that actually CraftyRaf did a lot of advocacy work for the community of competitive Carcassonne players and initiated negotiations with Board Game Arena. And thanks to his efforts, many updates were implemented, including, for example, having this little marker showing who the starting player was, having whether the opponent has a tile in hand or hasn't, having better graphics for logs so that players can track discarded tiles a little bit better, and all that good stuff. But the main thing that was the change that not only he advocated for, but really the whole international community advocated for. Just Raf was the one who spearheaded those efforts in communicating those wishes to the developers on Board Game Arena. That's the new tiebreaker rule. So in case of a tie, the win is awarded to the second player, or to the player who did not go first. The reason for that is that being first in Carcassonne gives you a statistical advantage of roughly 4 percentage points, as it has been shown. So in case of a tie, the second player considered to have won the game. But it does not look like we're headed for a tie in this one. It more looks like Red is about to have themselves a nice advantage. Because they draw a splitter tile, they can either bail out and finish an 8-point city for themselves, whilst Fabian would still have a bunch of cities open and probably will not be able to complete all of them before Raf attacks them again. Or he might want to go super aggressive and invade the city with another meeple, hoping to build a bigger city, drawing a cow tile, another city cap, and finishing a city of roughly 18 points for himself. He decides to take the regular approach, just cashing in on the 8 points and then using another city cap to invade Fabian's city up north. Not a pleasant position for yellow. So yellow tries to take something going with this seemingly useless road tile. Instead, he actually made a move with 2 purposes. The first one is to be the first on the field, The field has already 6 points in the form of 2 completed cities on it, chances to get a third, a fourth, a fifth completed city, loads of green squares for new cities, so that's an excellent farmer here. And the second purpose of that move is that it protects the city a little bit, because now it becomes harder for red to find a tile that fits into this square, and thus it will be harder for red to create a attacking platform against the city. And you can see that in effect. Because red was not able to place this tile here anymore, he now is forced to go to the left, which is still annoying if you're yellow. But not as annoying as your opponent invading your city at the bottom. Hi, Hugo. So Crafty now, with a Dorito tile, probably looking to invade over here and complete the connection, as there's still another splitter, and if Fabian were to draw a splitter, he would deploy it to a great effect, finishing a 10-point city for himself, whilst leaving Raf with just a 4-point city, and of course dropping a second farmer for 6 points to support his main 9-point farmer. Then this would create a lot of fields to fight for. For example, this would also create a 6-point field here on the left. But since there's only one of those splitters remaining, if red so chooses, it's completely reasonable to delay this connection. For example, he might choose to exert some pressure on this square here against yellow's road, chooses against it, just makes the normal move. Now yellow with a great tile to consolidate this vulnerable square. I think that yellow could have considered dropping a farmer. That actually would have been better. Yellow, of course, is hoping to get something like one more city cap, and then he could drop the farmer. But I would be apprehensive if I were yellow about red doing something like this with a straight line or a curve and then dropping a farmer himself. This farmer would give red already 6 points for these 2 cities, and then this would also control these 2 cities as well, so potentially cashing in on the points that these completed cities would give them. And the geometry of those cities is such that yellow would not be able to drop another farmer upon the completion of the city. But yellow decides to keep his meeples for now. So for example, he uses one for a monastery at the bottom, which actually is quite nice. It scores 4 points and it equalizes this monastery of red at the top. It exerts a bit of pressure on this square because eventually yellow's going to go over here, and this move will allow him to maybe do something like this and start blocking this square, playing against red's 3-point road meeple whilst still developing his monastery and getting points for his monastery. Red now with a starting tile, and I think he's debating between a city move and a field move. So the most logical move is just to go over here and simply try finishing your city, then maybe get a city cap, and if we manage to finish our city before yellow, then we get to drop a farmer. This would have the nice effect of obstructing this yellow city as well, which we can later follow up with something like a curve, a farmer, and a further restriction to this square. So we can start working on sandwiching this poor yellow guy on the left. An alternative move that he must be thinking is a field move. Maybe going over here and meepling the farm, even though this is not the ideal tile to be doing so, because typically you want to spend a less useful tile on this, something like a road tile. This would still accomplish the purpose of the anticipation farmer that I mentioned before. He decided to postpone that as the integrity of these 2 cities is important, so improve one's own, break one's opponent's. Fabian finishes a road on the right, gets himself a much-needed meeple back. Down 8 points on the scoreboard, but some potentially lucrative construction projects are available. Raf starts a new city, whilst indirectly prolonging his road, hoping for this sort of loop, with 2 curves and a straight line attaching to this road end. It may seem far-fetched, but it's actually more likely than one might seem. Fabian with a monastery tile and no good monastery spots. I don't think you can justify going over here and stacking just because these monasteries get so blocked easily on this square. So he chooses to control red's monastery instead, which is a strong move. Because on his next move, he'll be placing something like a straight line over here. And at the very least, delaying the completion of red's city, which will give more time for yellow to complete his city and then drop the farmer on the left. Raf now attacks the rightmost farm. Still plenty of tiles for invasion. And in case he's unsuccessful, he can just go for the leftmost farm. Fabian, with the road monastery, decides to simply take 3 points and also break yellow's road. That is quite unfortunate for yellow because out of the 4 road den tiles that fit in that square, Fabian drew the one tile that actually breaks yellow's road. With a regular road end, such as a triple crossroad, there would still be this road piece protruding out of it, so that Crafty could have gotten 2 curves and finished his road. Now it will be much harder. He will just need to prolong his road the normal way and then draw one of these guys a little bit later. Fabian scores 2 quick points whilst also harassing red's city a little bit, and red does not get out of harm's way here, as he will for sure go over here, finish his city, and drop a much needed farmer here. Which is also the reason why I preferred that Fabian drop a farmer here earlier. It's still possible to equalize that field. There's this platform here on the left for Fabian, for example. Or, you know, it's possible to finish the city and drop a farmer, or do both of these things. But when you're the first on the farm, you're spending only 1 tile to invest that farmer. And in Raf's case, it's actually 0 tiles, because he was dropping his city anyway. And now yellow will need to spend 2 tiles. 1 for dropping a farmer somewhere in the vicinity of this field, and then another tile to complete the connection. Something like this and this. This, of course, will build up his monastery, so it's not such a big problem. But a big problem is something that's about to occur for Raf on the right-hand side of the board, as whilst red is trying to invade, yellow is building barricades. After this move, which I think is a very strong move from yellow, it's now much harder to find a tile that fits into this square, and if red is not careful, yellow is going to draw a curve, place it over here in such a way that no tile fits into that square, blocking red's access completely. But red's problems are not over. This square is now completely blocked, so this means that with any Dorito tile, yellow can go over here and now tie this lone red meeple to this blocked square, effectively blocking red's city as well. So this one move is attacking 2 red's meeples at the same time. And now Raf is having himself a dilemma. Do you go over here and protect that invasion square? And you might do so, but then that's barely a protection, because if you do like this, then there's only 1 vanilla city cap that fits into this square, because 4 out of 5 vanilla city caps are on the board already right here. And there's still multiple Doritos available. There are 2 Doritos like this, and there's 1 splitter. And that's why Raf decides to not even bother. So he's gonna leave a chance for the square to be blocked completely, just so that later he can get himself some sort of tile that fits here. And at least so far that works, because Fabian has not drawn a blocking tile. He did get a blocking tile, but one against red's city instead. And then after that, he will be looking to get something like a Dorito with the road to block this square as well. Note that 1 splitter is still remaining in the deck. So, depending on the game situation, red might actually use the splitter not over here for the field connection, but at the top, simply to separate his little meeple from this blocked piece of junk. and then just save his meeple, score 4 points, get a meeple back. Hi, Elias. Hi, Napamai. How Wise Maze? A splitter, in fact, is drawn by Fabian instead, who uses it to equalize on the scoreboard and then start a new city. But it is not only starting a new city, it is, of course, has the vicious intention of using the city as a connection platform. The next tile of Fabian is surely a city cap, then a farmer, then the connection, and then we're on. This also means that Red's connection to this farm is actually not that important, because Red can still access the leftmost farm and support his colleague over here through a bunch of curvy tiles. And there are still chances how all these farms get unified from the bottom and from the top anyway, like in a big circle. It is more likely than you might think, especially if Fabian manages to successfully deploy a farmer here. In the meantime, Crafty, with a Dorito plus road tile, a variety of good options. So he could just go over here, get himself extra city points, because now, after the last splitter is drawn, there is no point in trying to separate this meeple from the blocked ruin over here. We just want to connect it and make sure that it scores a lot of points, or as much as it can, given that the city is blocked. For example, but we might not do that right now, because ideally we want to get something like a quadruple city tile, which also has edges, where you can expand further. Fabian does in fact complete his routes of farming, very likely to connect over here successfully through one of the 5 remaining curves. But one thing that Raf should have considered is actually adding the tile to Fabian's city, making it harder to complete given the low number of city caps available in that square, and there was only one city cap that fit there, and removing that farming platform. Maybe that's something that we could have considered. Another move, which actually I'm surprised Raf didn't elect, was simply going over here and starting to block Fabian's city. There's still all 3 daggers available and 1 starting tile and 2 umbrella tiles. So that's 3 tiles, that's 6 tiles that can get yellow a meeple back and another 6-point farmer. So from Red's perspective, this is a very dangerous square, and using this tile to go over here would have actually been a complete block of that square. Moreover, if this square is blocked, then this square, which Red might have to use for a field connection, is safer, because yellow will not be placing anything here to restrict this square. Crafty with a monastery, and not the good place to meeple it necessarily. However, given the fact that yellow has already won 8-point monastery, from which you will be soon getting a meeple back with one of the 5 remaining curves over here, it's probably not the worst idea to start another 4-point monastery and simply score a little bit. Because it seems to me that equalization of the field alone should not be enough for Red. Now that Fabian's ahead on the scoreboard with all his cities and another city threat, it seems to me that Red needs to catch up on scoring as well. This would also be an efficient way of doing so, as it supports the road. There are also ways of multiple 2-tile sequences, such as straight line. No, I mean, wait. So basically we can get a curve, straight line, and some sort of road end, so we can build our road around the monastery. But instead, Raf uses this tile to equalize the monastery of yellow, or not. What do I know? That's interesting. So he actually uses the monastery tile as a pure blocking tile. So the intentions of red are very clear. Place a tile here, make sure that nothing fits into the square, block this meeple. But then I wonder if that's gonna work. I mean, it's probably gonna work, but then yellow's just gonna go over here and connect to this field and make sure that if red successfully connects, because red still has the 2 Doritos that fit into this square up top, then yellow will be eating up this meeple for lunch with a 2 versus 1 majority against red. Yellow sees no threat for now, just uses a scoring tile as a scoring tile, and Raf with an opportunity to block in multiple ways. Let's see if he pulls the trigger on it. He could just face it with a city cap to the left, or he could face it with a city cap to the right, given that it is now his field. The advantage of facing it with a city cap for the right is dropping a city cap in his own field, which is normally a good thing. The disadvantage is... well, the disadvantage is that you create a platform for attack in the field, but I'm not sure what the advantage of this move is. So he added a point to yellow just to start the block, then got the perfect blocking tile but decided not to block. I'm not sure exactly what the intention here is, because it is definitely in red's interest to block that square, because the immediate threat is very obvious: to unify a 3-point meeple together with a 12-point farmer of red. But I wonder if it matters now, as Fabian successfully finished his 8-point city, which, by the way, could have been prevented with this tile over here by Raf. So I think we did witness a strategic miss here, being punished quite severely by Fabian. 8 points on the scoreboard and a farmer and a meeple majority. It seems to me will be very, very hard to stomach. And that's why Raf is now trying to block this square, but isn't that misplaced? Because this guy can connect to the field over here anyway. As Raf, we're probably better off just finishing our city, since we're so short on meeples. And then just trying to use that to drop some farmers. Yeah, we can see that the idea of blocking kind of didn't work out. As I said, yellow is simply trying to connect through the bottom. Raf, of course, connects through the top. Wait a minute, isn't there brilliancy available? Wait, check this out. There's only one of these Dorito tiles. No. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad because it blocks the square, but wasn't there a better move? As Raf, we could have added this tile over here and tried to block 2 meeples at once. There's only one Dorito tile available. There are no vanilla city caps available, as last of them was drawn by Raf. So by going over here, you're really reducing your opponent's chances to not only connect this meeple to the main field, but also to continue his city. So maybe a bit of a rush turn by CraftyRaf, but you can expect that, given that he has only now 3 minutes remaining on the clock. So he has spent 19 of his 22.5 allotted minutes. And still 15 tiles left to play. Actually, we're probably talking about severe time trouble in what looks to be like a complex endgame, because it is a relatively big field fights with lots of standoffs and stuff like this. Well, Fabian does draw the Dorito tile anyway, so my idea would not have worked, but at least it should have been considered. So that thing that I can say, maybe Raf considered it and just dismissed that idea. So Fabian now with the last Dorito of the game. All 10 Dorito tiles have been drawn. Oh, and actually he could go here in theory and block this square, but I wonder if that is needed, because red can still access through here. So this is actually a very strong farmer here. Oh yeah, I guess as Fabian you just go over here, duh. you probably want to win this field. And then as Fabian, just separate this guy from these guys. So you enjoy yourself a 12-point field on the right, a 15-point field rather. Or maybe not. He decides that he actually does not want the majority on this field. And now Raf could block the square in the future with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with one of the two big tiles. But then Raf also needs the big tiles here. Whilst he was building up his ruin, he actually did not yet connect successfully. So he's saving the big tiles for connection. And now there's only one of those remaining. CraftyRaf absolutely has to draw the quadruple city tile so that he can benefit from all those extra field points, because this 1-point city has not yet connected to all those pieces lying around. And Crafty chose a different kind of block. By the way, this was also a very strong move, recognizing that no vanilla city caps and no monasteries are available in the deck. So in fact, this meeple will not be connected over here. That's pretty interesting. And now as Crafty, I wonder if... Oh yeah, finishing the monastery makes sense. But I was wondering if we could have just gone here. That would have been a bad move. Simply trying to eat up this 3-point meeple and also get ourselves a crossroad to go over here and score 4 points and then bring in this meeple. So there's this geometry of like crossroads plus curve available. But the reason why it's not such a great move is because Fabian could get a road tile and drop a sneaky farmer over here and then create such a situation that would use a crossroad tile to connect both red's meeples to this field and yellow's meeple to this field like that to equalize. This whole pattern of straight line, crossroads, and a loop around the crossroads creates an opportunity for farmers to travel around roads. So that's why Raf doesn't go for that idea just yet. There's still plenty of tile that fit into that square. Also, there's still one starting tile available to fit here that Fabian could use to connect his north meeple. But then as Fabian, I even wonder if that's necessary, because his north field is scoring 9 points by itself, and that is probably quite a happy farmer. So Robert Schumann was correct. Classic music buffs will get the reference. I mean, it's not a deep reference. He just has a famous piece which is called the Happy Farmer. Fabian scores quick point for the city, which is probably the best that he could do with just one meeple. And CraftyRaf uses that as an opportunity to invade the farm. Now the game is turning around. That's an excellent move here. There are still plenty of road tiles to complete the field connection, and now Fabian will be hard-pressed to block this, as there are actually very few blocking tiles available in the deck. There are way more road tiles than city tiles available. And even if he blocks that square, there's still one starting tile for a win via coin flip. Excellent spot here by Crafty. This farmer is all but guaranteed to enter the main field for 15 points. Now suddenly Fabian is in trouble, because he's not getting the bottom field, although he might in some scenarios. He's not getting the top field either. So what could he do? I think I know an idea. A move that I like here is not even an attempt to block. I think it's kind of useless based on the fact that almost every single remaining tile is a road tile. I think we place it over here. And this move serves two purposes. So first of all, it's actually protect our field on the left from invasions from Raf in the future, because we don't want to be sharing those points. That move also makes sense, but I still like that move a little bit more. And the second, it protects this invasion square a little bit. Because from yellow's perspective, we might be forced to go over here with our penultimate tile like this and try to connect a farmer over here. And so what that move would have done, that would have made blocking the farmer much harder, because it would have restricted this square, which is the blocking square for this over here, critical square. So this is where we drop a farmer, this is where invade, this is where a potential block would come in, and this is where we prevent that block in advance. So that would be a possible move. Crafty finishes a road, starts a new city, now gets a curve. And it's a bit of a tricky decision here. Do you just connect to the field? Because you have to do that eventually. Or do you go here first? Because one thing that I'm concerned about as Raf is that yellow could at some point draw the curve and then deny me both crossroads. But given the fact that there are only 4 tiles remaining, or like 5 tiles remaining unseen to us, 4 in the deck and 1 in Raf's hand, I don't think that's a very big concern, because Raf is almost guaranteed to draw one of the 2 remaining crossroads. What is a big concern is the fact that Crafty has 37 seconds on his clock and still has to make 3 critical moves in this game. Thank you, Divalka, for suggesting in the chat that Red could have actually dropped a farmer like this, connecting to the field, but also getting himself 3 extra points. I think I have an explanation for this. So it has to be a miss, of course, because if you turn the curve the other way, well, actually, I'm not sure if that's, yeah, no, I think that's a miss. That's a miss. Well, if you do it the other way, I guess you're giving back a few blocking tiles, but I don't think this is Raf was thinking. I think he was just in time trouble. And psychologically, this orientation with the curve facing downwards, not upwards, as Raf placed, it is a bit more counterintuitive, because visually it leaves an open square over here for this meeple to connect. Now, we know, and Raf, of course, knows, that there are no monasteries here left, but it's still like, it looks like a fillable hole. So in time trouble, you instinctively want to place a tile in such a way that covers up that square and sort of shoulders that meeple away. This would be my explanation. But in any case, not great news for fans of Raf, because Fabian just drew the last tile that fit for red into this city. This will deny red 7 tasty points and probably give 2 tasty points to Fabian, but it's not obvious where he exactly places it, because it's a very complicated endgame. So let me just walk you through it a little bit. Now, Crafty, of course, has the majority on the field, and Fabian might have to attack this in the future. So our options include, we could just get 2 points for our city and not care about everything. We could go over here and break Raf's city, preventing him from completing the city and dropping a farmer, so this would save us a couple of points. We could also go over here, add just 1 monastery point, but block this connection. And this could be important, because there are some sequences how red can actually draw the starting tile and use it here. So a sneaky plan of red could be, so there's still 1 curve remaining. Imagine this sequence. Red gets a curve, places it over here, then this meeple is blocked for 3 points, and this 12-point field has 2 meeples, 2 red meeples on it. So then red can go over here with the starting tile and bring in this 9-point yellow farmer into the main field just to eat up that 9-point farmer alive, making him lose these 9 points. Moreover, this would expand red's field by adding 3 points over here. So that is a potential plus 12-point sequence. And from Fabian's perspective, maybe going over here and preventing it is not exactly the worst idea. But then again, if we prevent this, we could end up losing a 15-point field, because Raf has this curve plus crossroad sequence available, which would score him 4 extra points for a road, by the way, and 3 extra points for the field, and it would deny yellow 3 points, because these two meeples together could eat up this little guy. And because Raf is going last, he will have perfect information, and he will decide whether it is safe to eat up one of the two meeples or not. So Raf will not be letting yellow to equalize this field. But by going over here, yellow just might save the life of one of his meeples, the more valuable one. So there's a lot to consider here if you're Fabian. He goes for the move that breaks Crafty's city. Crafty immediately uses the crossroads in the suggested square. Yellow completes a monastery and starts a new one. Crafty, with a scoring tile, gets 3 points for the road and 1 for the city, and the remaining tiles are curve and starting tile, no? So Fabian gets a starting tile and very wisely does not use it over here, but Crafty, with a curve, he will go over here and take 4 points for the road and 3 points extra for the farm, and he will eat up this poor yellow guy. And I believe with 2 fields, this will be enough for red to prevail. Yellow has this ruin over here, and yellow has the monasteries and the 9-point field at the top. But I don't seem to think it's going to be quite enough. Eight seconds remaining for Raf only in the end. And a 1-point difference, but Fabian still takes it. So despite, and I'm pretty sure that Fabian must have calculated this endgame out, because he was thinking for a really, really long time. And I think that move that won Fabian the game was actually going over here. Maybe. Because it prevented Raf from doing what exactly? Okay, I'm not sure about that, actually. I think this move ended up being a wash. I don't think it made that big of a difference. But in any case, Fabian seemed to be in control there, and I just don't see winning scenarios for Raf. You know what Raf needed to win? He actually needed the starting tile. Oh, that would have been so interesting. Wait, are the players suggesting a break? 2-minute break, perfect. So this gives us a chance to discuss this. So imagine if Raf draws the starting tile, then of course he'd be able to place it over here and eat up that farmer, and that would be enough to win. But then the penultimate tile of Fabian would have been a curve. And so Fabian would have needed to go over here, score 4 points for the road himself, but voluntarily give up. He would need to sacrifice this meeple, just so that he would need to get 1 meeple into a losing farm simply to prevent red from going over here. Because with this meeple in the farm, red eating up the top meeple would not be possible, because if red were to use the starting tile over here, yellow would have just as many meeples in the farm as red. So then red, instead of going over here, would do something normal, like, I don't know, score a 3-point road somewhere. I guess that's the best that he could have done. And wait, actually, I think this would have been enough. This would have been enough for red to win. And the difference is that with this move over here, Wait, I'm a bit confused. Okay, let me think about this. I think yellow still wins, yeah, but it's a difficult move to find because you need to voluntarily sacrifice your meeple. Because in his last move, Raf scored 4 and this guy scored 4. Yeah, and then if yellow were to place this curve over here, yellow would be scoring 4 and Raf would be scoring 3. So if I got my math right, then in fact Raf would even be losing by 2 points. But still, if the tiles were reversed, Fabian would need to find his only winning move, knowing that the last tile is a starting tile. And voluntarily sacrificing a meeple is not something that you can do without a heavy heart. Thank you for letting me know that the game has started. So we'll go to game 2 in just a second. So Fabian is ahead in this best of 3 series and is one tile, well, not one game away from winning the title for the first time. For Crafty, this would also be the first time if he were to win. And it looks increasingly likely as he's the starting player, so he will have the statistical advantage at the end. Also, why is he the starting player? Did the players forget to cancel the game or something? Because wait, CraftyRaf was the starting player last game. Am I not wrong? Somebody please check that. I'm pretty sure that my Belgian viewers will know the rules of the championship better. But in any case, both players are going along with that, so we're not going to interfere. Maybe it's Fabian being noble here and sacrificing a few win percentage points, saying, I don't need the starting player advantage to beat you. I just did win you from second position. What you gonna do about it? Well, I'm pretty sure this is not how he talks. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be some sort of French accent. Because also, incidentally, Fabian would be the first ever French-speaking Belgian to win the Belgian Championship. For those of you for whom that matters. CraftyRaf has already played in the finals before, both in the in-person and online championships. He has a lot of second-place finishes, and I don't think he would be particularly happy of adding another one under his belt. So you bet that he will fighting really hard this game. Thank you, Ludo, for confirming that apparently both players have tried to find the correct settings, but the rules of the Belgian National Online Championship have an interesting twist that if the randomizer assigns the wrong starting player 3 times in a row, then on the 4th time you just have to go with it, regardless of what the randomizer says. In some other championships, the rules are that if the starting player is wrong, then you just keep restarting the game until you actually get the right starting player. And the reason why this rule was created just really has to do a lot with how Board Game Arena is designed. So it's a bit difficult to create matchups like this with a fixed time control without an increment. So you can see that players have 22.5 minutes for the entire game, and that makes the type of the time control a bit similar to other mind sports such as chess. Whereas the standard control on this website would be a time control with a 3-minute time bank and a 45-second increment, so that your time bank keeps replenishing, but it never exceeds 3 minutes. And definitely, both as a viewer and as a player, I prefer the time format that these players are playing, And it looks like the game has started to shape into something interesting, as Crafty does indeed get an early lead due to these 3 finished cities. One of his meeples suffers a little bit of damage because his road meeple is now half blocked. There's only 1 tile that fits into the square, but now a great move from Crafty. Look at this, starting a new city in a safe location and then starting to harass the city of yellow from this side, and also pre-building a 4-point road, which only he can meeple if he gets the last remaining and the one and only crossroads in the deck. The quadruple crossroad, of course. Raf is now playing quite aggressively against Fabian's meeples, trying to block the square, which he will now do. So this meeple has been lost for just 1 point, but Fabian, being aggressive with something that matters much more, city points, by getting a cow, horse, plus Dorito sequence, he has covered up what has an 88% chance of becoming his 18-point city, because there are still 3 tiles that fit into the square that would unify his 2 meeples together with 1 meeple of red, causing red some suffering. But because statistically it's going to take some time before Fabian actually draws this tile, combined with the fact that Crafty's ahead already on the scoreboard, he actually has enough time to consolidate and prepare for this city being completed. And whenever your opponent is in a position that they have covered up their city and the completion of that city is albeit inevitable, then you need to look for compensation. So the first type of compensation would be maybe you meeple a road which goes through the city. No such road is available. The second type of compensation is farming. So you can use your temporary meeple majority to take a stronghold on the most important farms, specifically on the farms surrounding the main city in the game. So maybe something like this and this with the farmer over here would be a worthy sequence. The reason why I want to do this is, first of all, get those juicy 9 farm points at some point, but also you want to prevent your opponent from being able to use this square and drop a farmer with tempo upon the completion of the city. Because yellow completing the city is bad enough for red. Red does not need to allow any extra perks to come with that city. There is another way to get some compensation, or at least prevent the worst case scenario. Maybe if we get one of the 2 remaining road Doritos, we can actually go over here, prolong our road, prepare the completion of a 6-point road, and also obstruct this square, which would make the inside 3-point farm next to the city kind of useless. Crafty starts a new city. He's being really aggressive with the scoring, does not like to finish his cities, instead opens new ones in more advantageous position. But this move tries to play against this road, although he could have ended playing against his own city. Let's see how this turns out. But it very much plays against this city of red, exposes multiple vulnerable squares next to it, and I'm pretty sure that Crafty will be looking forward to drawing a curve, placing it over here, a thorn right in the heart of this city over here. Still, quick points is the route for the play with the red meeples. Fabian struggling to develop his meeple over here. He's now pre-building a 4-point road, which I'm not sure he should have done. Maybe meepling this road was actually a bit more cautious. And then, of course, his plan is to draw something like a Dorito tile over here, maybe even with a farmer. Another plan that red might have is to draw a tile... another plan that yellow might have is to draw the tile that red has in hand now, and place it over here for a 6-point monastery and the completion of his road. Then on the next move, we get a straight line. We go over here. We get ourselves a lovely 6, potentially 9-point field, potentially 12-point field on the left. So this certainly must be how Fabian is daydreaming at the moment. But Crafty's the one with the tile, and I guarantee you he's not going to go over here. This monastery spot is nowhere near as good enough to justify the recovery of the meeple for your opponent. Yeah, instead it's actually not sure what you're going to do. Maybe here. Yeah, maybe here for 6 points. And then we get a curve and drop a farmer here. But then what could happen if we do this, our opponents can draw this cow tile before we consolidate and get all the meeples that we need for farming. And if that were to happen, then it is in fact yellow who's going to get the first crack at the field. So I'm wondering, is it one of those cases where we actually sacrifice the monastery? Maybe we just go over here and meeple the field to begin with. I normally don't like moves like these. They were very popular in like the mid 2010s or early to mid 2010s, but then sort of they were typically shown to be a bit inefficient. But there's an exception to every rule, and sometimes it might be just the case. So Crafty does decide to sacrifice the monastery, but he decides to forego any sort of scoring in the first place. Instead, he used it to eliminate a potential 4-point road, which I think is a decision which is understandable on the surface, but maybe just not thought through deeply enough. I really think that this farmer over here would have been nice. But if you don't want to go for a farmer, then I doubt that this road is something that you want to block. Because 2 reasons. Well, first of all, your opponent already needs a curve in another place to finish his road meeple. So this increases the chances that red will be taking advantage of this road. Second, the completion of this road would expose an attacking platform against Fabian City over here. So this reduces the value of this road overall for yellow. So even though yellow still has a greater chance of being the first one to draw a curve in this square, the overall expected value from this road with the tile runouts that's on the board probably slightly favors red, or at least does not disfavor red so much that it would mandate using a whole monastery just to prevent that option. Red, in the meantime, is trying a really dangerous type of block. Actually, I don't think it's a strong move necessarily. On one hand, red is threatening to block this square with just one move. Maybe he gets some sort of city plus road tile, like a Dorito with a road, and then he blocks. But with this tile run out, city plus road tiles are really not that frequent. For example, all 3 horses have gone out, and a big chunk of these Doritos. Yeah, we can see how Fabian now completes the city, gets a slight only lead on the scoreboard. Crafty with the perfect tile to block the city, but I'm not even sure if he should do that. Instead, he finishes his own city at the top, which makes a lot of sense. But then this move, like if you're not going to use a city plus road tile to block, which again is fully justified, it actually helps yellow a little bit. Because after yellow drew the first cow, yellow can now go over here, for example, and cover up his city. Or he can just go over here straight up. But even if he doesn't draw a tile that goes into his square directly, he can still draw something like a Dorito with a road and cover up the square. Whereas before the straight line being here, using a tile to cover up the square is not possible because red can still draw a curve in such a way that limits the square much more severely because there's only one dagger tile left. So with that move, red actually denied himself the opportunity of blocking the city properly later, just going for a temporary restriction, missing the chance to restrict this in a more decisive fashion later. But Crafty now with the monastery and the game is completely equal. And I wonder if he decides to use it for farming, which would make a lot of sense. Like, you can go here for 6 points, because there are not really good monastery spots available, and then you can anticipate your opponent getting something over here, in which case your 6 points will become 9 or 12 points or 15 points. Although red really does not want his field to become 15 points, because this would imply this yellow city being completed, which should spell out GG for red and his championship chances. I think a move that red is considering is just YOLOing and going over here and meepling a 5-point monastery, supporting both his road meeple and his city meeple, just really hoping for that last remaining crossroads that would give him a great payout. But if he doesn't draw the crossroads, 2 lost meeple instead of 1. Given the fact that Crafty has 4 meeples available to him, he might be more inclined to take the gamble, because the price of losing a meeple is a bit lower than usual. But this impression is a bit deceptive, because in a position where there are a lot of small fields, like 6 points here, 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 like lots of small fields. And all these are potential locations for meeples. So now that, imagine we have like red, yellow, and so on, then suddenly there are way, way fewer meeples available. So CraftyRaf does get the second road monastery, and he... Wait a second. There are options. He can just go over here again, which I think would actually be really, really strong. Meepling the 7-point monastery spot. This also is nearly unblockable because there's almost every tile available that fits into that square. This would expand his field by a boatload. And since Fabian has already committed to a field on the left, this would give red the chance to take real stronghold with the fields on the right. And still complete his 9-point monastery, because this one would be very hard to block. Since this is the last monastery in the game, he now doesn't need to be worried about this meeple so much. In fact, with any straight line, he can block this meeple completely, which would not only block yellow with only 2 points, it would also prevent Fabian from expanding his field and adding these 2 points. But Fabian's now not concerned about expanding his field. He's now severely threatening the completion of a city. This city already has 8 points, and it is only 2 or 3 tiles available. It's only 2 or 3 tiles away from being completed, depending on which side you build it on. A second farmer goes for Fabian. Crafty, with a straight line, probably looking to either go over here and take care of this block, because really, like, a full meeple is a full meeple. Or he could even go over here and try to cover up his field a little bit, and also set up one of the 3 remaining crossroads that go into this square. I would say that the block is the priority, just because there's so many crossroads plus curve combos that Fabian can do this plus this, and we're now increasingly in a position where meeples will be more important, just because we have some fields available that can be claimed. Also, 1 more monastery used in the deck, and a block is in fact what follows. He's debating a farmer. I mean, not like debating a farmer in the sense that one farmer is saying and Raf is saying, no, you're wrong. I mean, he's debating with himself the option of dropping us another farmer. And he decides against this because yellow can still, even though yellow cannot place anything over here, yellow can still get a tile that goes over here and unify this field that way. Okay, now Crafty really needs to take care about the city, because Fabian is super threatening here. But then the question, do we just continue our own? Oh, this is dangerous. I think many players, maybe even myself included, would have said, you know what, enough with this. I just want to block your city. So as CraftyRaf, I think I would have considered doing something like this, added the shield to my opponent, but just really not allowing it to be completed easily. Because if Fabian gets one more city cap, like, red is toast. Red is trying to complete his city at the top with 2 Doritos, but just with the look with the naked eye, you can see how few Doritos are remaining in the deck because how many Doritos are already on the board. So it will take a while before red can draw them with over 20 tiles remaining in the deck, and yellow will have all the chances to block this meeple. This configuration, on the other hand, can be completed with 2 city caps, and now Fabian is counting. He will either make this move, hoping for a city cap with the road to deliver the final blow, and this is what happens, or he will make the other move, hoping for a city cap with a field, and he must have calculated that there are more city cap that fit into this square. And now look at this, told you. So Raf was 1 tile away from finishing his city, but Fabian will now go over here and connect. Even though there's only 1 tile remaining that fits into this square, Fabian decides to leave no chances and not leave this tile empty. Just on the off chance Crafty draws the final cow and renews the threat of completing his city. So now, of course, this square will stay empty. It's in really nobody's interest to unify these 2 cities and expose another attacking platform. Unless, of course, this tile is drawn so late in the game that re-attacking opportunities are no longer possible, in which case it will be in yellow's interest to equalize the points. Crafty now with a crossroads, probably debating whether it's worth scoring or trying to do something about that city. I do not know the answer to that question. What I do know is that there are some potential ideas of all the fields in the game being unified. And if Fabian were to complete his city, which he does, this actually has to hurt extra because Crafty is also losing extra 3 points. But believe it or not, he still has an actual chance in this game. The way you win this is you get the quadruple crossroads. You know why? Because then you get to drop a farmer here. You get the crossroads here. You get to connect here. And then you win a big, big field. So Crafty now is a very difficult position. Crafty finishes a monastery, starts a new one. Fabian gets quick points. That's probably the route for Fabian, is just to keep scoring. Crafty also needs to catch up on the scoreboard a little bit. Really wishes he would have done that a little bit earlier. Or he might go over here. Maybe it's a bit too early to be doing that. But one thing that I know about Raf is that he's not somebody that is going to roll over and lose. He will risk really hard and try to set up some sort of win that's available to him with the right tiles. If anything, sometimes Raf tends to risk harder than he has to by maybe being a little bit too risky too soon. But in this game, 19 points behind on the scoreboard, I think it will be fairly difficult. On the other hand, I don't think he has to do anything all that crazy, and maybe this is why I would have loved to see a scoring move instead of a blocking move. With just 3 more points here, and 3 more points here, he's 9 more, so he's only 13 points behind. If he gets the quadruple tile here, then this is 10 more points, 4 for the road, 6 for this, and he's down like 3 points. And he has a meeple advantage. He has a mini ball on this ruin. Like, he's not doing all that bad. He's now threatening to get a city cap, drop a 6-point farmer. Like, red has good threats in this position. The one thing I didn't like about this move was creating Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't think I can explain the value of the 6-point field. I don't think I can explain why it costs. Why Red seems to believe that it's worth to be spending an entire meeple there. Maybe there is a bit of a master plan of trying to go over here and sneak through the main farm and then drop multiple farmers, but then if you're going to do that, why not just drop the farmer somewhere more direct, like here? I have my suspicions that it could be a misclick. Maybe he wanted to click on the 3-point road. But then I don't think it was a misclick because he thought for a real long time, so it must have been a conscious farmer. Maybe there's the idea that I'm not seeing, but I think overall, maybe just CraftyRaf underestimated his position. So he would have had 6 more points on the scoreboard in comparison to what he has now. 1 more meeple. This here threat still. A monastery. A larger ruin. And control of the biggest farm on the board. I'm not sure if that's exactly a bad spot to be in. And one thing that you can do as Fabian, now that CraftyRaf has made this very committal move, well, you can just start playing against it. For example, why not just go over here and start blocking the square? I give you one better. Why not go over here and block the square completely? Because if we go over here, there are no tiles that fit here at all. All monasteries have been used up. All vanilla city caps have been used up. But instead, green decides to not participate in this game because I misspoke again. But yellow decides to take 2 points at the bottom. Maybe he didn't like this idea because even though this square would be blocked, CraftyRaf would still have a chance to get back-to-back curves and connect like this. But then I don't think that the idea of this farm is actually fight for this big field. I think it's just a 6-point field. And he's going to get himself maybe a 9-point field by connecting like this. Or maybe not. He does start fighting for this 9-point field. The quadruple tile is drawn by Fabian, so that idea here is gone, which should make Crafty's life much, much harder. Quick points for Crafty. And again, a severe disadvantage on the clock. And now Fabian has all kinds of choices. He can go here, unify the fields, get himself some support. He could go here, meeple this 3-point field, anticipating the completion of this city, which I'm not even sure is possible. Well, technically it is because there's still 1 cow tile that goes here, after which Raf could draw a city cap which still exists. So he could anticipate that, whilst also poking his neck into the main field of red, into the pride and honor of what currently is the highest scoring meeple on the board. Fabian with a straight line and a wealth of options here. Even my backdrop cannot handle the tension in this game. It seems to be on the verge of fainting. In fact, I happen to be kind of holding it with my neck muscles right now. Fabian drops a 3-point farmer with the intention of connecting over here or simply getting himself insurance against Crafty continuing and completing his city. Crafty with a dagger tile and not many options. Maybe going over here makes sense. Maybe scoring 4 points. And then in that case, if Fabian goes here and connects the field, maybe we can try and re-attack the field later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 curve remaining. So potential invasion like this at the top, straight line plus curve is available. Like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 straight lines available for that purpose. Crafty gets himself a monastery point and tries to block, and Fabian just connects the 2 cities, increasing his lead. And I was afraid for a second. Wait. There is a Dorito available, no? 1, 2, 3, 4. So Crafty could just re-invade, no? Am I crazy? No, I'm not crazy. I counted correctly. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's still a city cap, no? So he will be invading and getting these ruin points. The only question is, can he still complete this city? Well, regardless, Fabian now, of course, is going to block this square. Or not. Wait, is there a starting tile? 1, 2, 3. No. Sadly, no starting tile. So completing this city is not possible, but invading it is not possible either. Or Fabian doesn't care. He's just going to invade the field. With the dagger tile, CraftyRaf with a Dorito gets the ruin points. Given that the fields are equalized, this is not going to be enough. Crafty still has 1 more tile to play. Fabian with 11 minutes on the clock. Faux show will figure out what that tile is. So he just needs to count whether he needs to block this invasion square or not. Because red is still trying to unify his 6-point field with a 9-point field of yellow, which, the more I think about this, should really be not such a big deal for yellow. So yellow just goes for a 5-point road, which is his highest scoring move. CraftyRaf has a straight line, which he will add to his city. And one thing that he will also add is another 2nd place finish. I'm not sure how he's going to feel about this afterwards. Oh yeah, of course he finds the best move, so he always plays until the end, making sure that the 2 farms of yellow are unified, which makes yellow lose 3 points. Now yellow is not scoring twice for the city, but yellow still has more field points overall because of this invasion over here. So we have ourselves a new champion, Fabian Mouton, who joined the Belgian Carcassonne community much later than most Belgian expert and managed to just win them all. And in this game also playing really well, I think, managing to out-strategize his more experienced counterpart a little bit, finding the right moment when to bet on big cities, and coming through with just 7 points. Yeah, so you see, like, this game is actually really close. So I think this was the moment where CraftyRaf a little bit underestimated his position, underestimated how many more scoring tiles there are, and maybe there were some other ways to climb back into the game. This was certainly a lovely invasion here. And very back and forth, like very good opening for red, and then equalization with this big city for yellow, and then the red again going ahead with all these monasteries and fields, and then yellow finding that idea of finishing the city at the bottom. So you have it everything: city fights, field fights, blocks, very vicious blocks. And a champion as a result. Hi Nalaheim, and I join to everybody who's saying congratulations to Fabian, and commiseration a little bit to Raf, who, I mean, of course, like being second in a national championship is still a big achievement, and he's clearly like a very, very strong player. I just know that maybe because it's not the first time, it might feel a certain way, but that's okay. Carcassonne sometimes is like that, and his time will come at some point for sure. This might be during the in-person championship this year, who knows? Because there's also one great news from the Belgian Carcassonne community when it comes to the in-person championships, as my Belgian viewers will already know, but my international viewers maybe won't, is that previously the format of the national in-person championships was held that the preliminary rounds were 4-player Carcassonne, which is a completely different game, and only the playoffs are 1 versus 1. But from this year, everything's going to be 1 versus 1. So it should actually be a bit easier for more experienced players to manage to end up in the top seats and top places more often, because the luck component from the 4-player games will be reduced. So maybe that's something that Raf could be looking forward to. But for now, second place, and congratulations to Fabian. All right, let me just read the chat a little bit. Matt, Kino, congratulations, Fabian. Everybody, congratulations, Fabian. And very much deservedly so. Yeah, actually, that's it. Well, about the last cow, I'm not sure. Because it is, of course, quite unfortunate for red that yellow drew the last cow. But then this last cow actually allowed a re-invasion for even more points. I think the main tile that was quite unfortunate for Crafty was this dagger over here, because it allowed the unification of a 3-point field with a 15-point field, and also gave 4 extra points for Fabian. That was actually a 13-point move for Fabian. But then again, this Dorito tile was literally a 13-point move for Raf as well. So at the very, very end of the game, he had to hope for both this tile and this tile. Also in quick succession as well, because he would need to connect over here and then deny yellow the connection, and that's before getting blocked here himself. Hi, Crafty. Commiserations to the losses, but those were some great games, especially the first one with a 1-point difference. I'm just looking through the chat as yes, a lot of move suggestions. As we find out, most of those moves, or many of those moves, would not have worked based on the tile runout. CraftyRaf is saying you already won the most trophy from second places. Yeah, maybe like you sum all those second places, you get the first. And also, trust me, from first-hand experience, I know exactly how it feels. But I think we will be starting to wrap up. So that's the Belgian Carcassonne Online Championship for you this year. We will be joining Team Belgium on many other occasions. We'll probably be streaming some friendly matches in the preseason of the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship, the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship itself, and of course the decisive stages of the next year's Belgium Carcassonne Online Championship, as we do every year. And we're going to stream and comment loads of other tournaments. So in case you're here for the first time, then make sure to subscribe and click the bell notification icon if you want more competitive Carcassonne content like this. Make sure to meeple the like button if you liked anything about this video. And I just need to remind you that there's also going to be a stream tomorrow. That's going to be from the Carcassonne Champions League, 10:30 a.m. UTC. Bogdan Kurkan playing against Vivian Charlot, one of the highest rated players in the world in... Wait, no. No, he already played against him. He's going to play against Self-Evident, who's also very highly rated, in round 3 of the Carcassonne Champions League. So then that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.